Three, two, one, boom! Welcome back for another episode of the Megatalks Podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about Aspen Ladd. I was originally going to do the second part to the domestic abuse episode, but I felt this was a relevant topic since the fight just occurred, and I wanted to say a few things, about the fighter and about the fight and about the situation, the UFC situation. Let's get into it. Aspen Ladd. I looked her up on some of her records on the internet. I see that she's 9-2. She has had some fights in the past at flyweight. She's fought at 135. This was her first fight at 145. She's 50% win record in her last 4 fights. So it's kind of 2-2 out of the last 4. And people were talking about, she's fighting in the main event. She's fighting in the main event. And last time the fight was canceled, and because she missed weight, and she didn't make her weight, and she tried to cheat. There was some discrepancy and some talk about on the internet about her, her missing weight. And if you check her interviews, she addresses those issues. So if you want to know her thoughts on that, check that out on YouTube. But I think it was Misha Tate was talking about her, her weight discrepancies and things like that. And also Misha Tate commented on the situation I'm going to talk about today is just the dynamic in her corner during her last fight with Dumont. And, it raises some eyebrows to some people. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the clip from her fight, Dumont versus Ladd, and just the corner cam and how her coach is interacting with her, the things that he's saying between the rounds. I like coaches that are upfront and coaches that are honest and will be, forthcoming with their fighters and tell them what their thoughts and not just beat around the bush or smooth things over and tell them that they're winning when they're not. Some of the talk was that he was aggressive in his mannerisms, and some of the things he said was aggressive and, borderline abusive, and really took her to a different place mentally during the fight. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say what his mental state was and what her mental state was during the fight, because when it comes down to it, it is not us that's in the moment. It's only them two and her other coaches and people there that are in the corner that are in the moment. We see a few minutes of what's going on when they live their day-to-day lives with each other and they train together, and we don't know the training dynamic. So to just sit from a few minutes in the corner and say he's this way or she's that way and this and that, it's kind of jumping the gun. We do know that in a previous fight that she was having that our coach approached her in the corner and gave her some stern words, and she came back and she performed and she got a win. And, there's some people, I've coached various people before, and there's some people that, their learning style is different. How you get them to react is different from person to person. You don't know their relationship. You don't know if that's or the way she wants to be talked to, or that's just the way they talk to each other. And there's a lot of if, ands, or buts that comes up, and how the lingo, the dynamic, and how they relate to one another. So I think one of the important things that we can kind of take away from a situation like this is not to be so judgmental and jump the gun and start making claims of he's to this or he's to that, or maybe she's to this and she's to that, without, getting a broader perspective of it. Some of you may already have a broader perspective. I'm just speaking from my point of view. Is when I first heard it, my first thoughts was, wow, he's telling her the truth. Some of the things, she needs to hear to get herself going. She may have told him before, or that maybe her style, she needs a stern talking to wake her up. Some fighters only wake up with talk. Some fighters wake up when you hit them. We've seen fighters in the past where, they get in the cage and they're just so relaxed, and then they get hit in the face a few times and about knocked out, and then they really start turning it on. They actually show urgency. I like to see urgency from people during fights because it tells me that they care. When somebody just kind of sits on their heels and tries to look extra cool and shows no urgency, you kind of question their motives of being there. When they have fighter in the blood, you fight, you get after it. And that's one of the things she done. She reacted. She went out there and she fought. Did she win the fight? No, she didn't win the fight. But you saw her reaction, and she reacted to it, and she made some changes, whether they were too late or not. Probably so, because she didn't get the win. But relationships and evaluating that, what just taken away from that is learn, to watch and observe. You can have those thoughts, but not to jump the gun. Like I said, what's interesting is, the things that were said on Twitter, the comments that I heard and heard from her interview is, she would like to fight Miesha Tate. At what weight? I don't know what that would be at, which weight they would decide to fight at. But I think it would be interesting to go ahead and set up that fight. I know Miesha has a fight that's due, that's coming up. But if we could go ahead and make that matchup, I think it would be cool, because she's already said she wanted to fight her because of who she is, her history, and gave her accolades. I wonder if that's a mutual thing from Miesha, if she's willing to take that for her next opponent. But I think it would be really interesting to see. And going back, just another interesting thing I would like to know is, when the fight ended, when the decision was read, you heard, well, it would be interesting to hear her coach's words and after the fight, and how he reacted after the fight, because sometimes you have an in-fight mentality, and as soon as the fight is over, all those things sometimes they just kind of disappear, because you're dealing with something that's in the moment. It's going to end. So there, like I said, there is that urgency to deal with those issues and to get work done. So it'd be interesting to see if his dynamic was the same, or did he chill out? Did he get more aggressive? Those were things that, like, some of us don't know, and only those that are on the inside know. So maybe we can springboard into that and see that fight soon in the UFC. But if you watch that, I want to know your thoughts on it. Leave it in the comments below. I do a podcast every Monday, so make sure that you tune in. Share this with somebody. Like, subscribe, all those good things. And if you're on iTunes, leave me a review. Let me know. If you catch this post on Facebook, anywhere else, leave a comment what you thought, and get some conversation going about that. But I will talk to you guys in the next episode of the Megatalks Podcast, and I thank you guys for tuning in.